Marriage, a show where we examine modern marriage from every angle, including our own relationship. I'm Allison, a New York Times bestselling author, relationship coach, and mental health advocate who forced my husband to do this show with me.
And I'm John Blakesley, and this morning I cut my lip in a neighborhood rumble.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. There was a neighborhood rumble, and I went out there, and, you know, the various sides were causing a
You cut yourself
ruckus.
shaving.
Well, I was knifed on the lip, for sure. But that was part of the rumble.
Well, maybe the problem is you're shaving with a knife.
Yeah, I need to rethink that.
It's not bad. Does it hurt?
When I move a little bit, yeah, but you should see the other guys.
There was no other guy.
You didn't see the rumble.
Okay. You've never been in a physical
No,
fight.
no. When I was a boy, when I was a lad, I almost socked one of my friends, but I didn't. And that's the closest I've ever come.
What do you mean you almost?
I almost did. I clenched my fist and I said, I'm about to punch my friend in the face. And then I didn't do it.
Why were you going to?
I don't really remember.
Wow. But you had a lot of self-restraint.
Enough, yeah. I think my reaction of even wanting to punch my friend in the face was not great. I think I was already overreacting, so I don't know how much credit I should give myself. But yeah, I've never been in a physical fight. And I think that is, you know, is that a problem for me being, you know, masculine, a man, that I haven't been in a physical fight?
No.
All right, well.
In sixth grade,
asking.
we would wrestle.
What?
Like, the girls, we would, like, wrestle each other.
Mm.
And so it wasn't, like, you know, I'd say, like, a fight, but I feel like there was, like, you know, because it wasn't, like, bad vibes. It was, like, opt-in. And I think I was pretty good at it.
Really?
Yeah.
What were your strategies?
Pure force.
I could see you being vicious. Poking out their eyes.
I do think,
Pulling
though,
their
like,
hair.
if I was, like, in
play dirty.
danger, I would play dirty.
You would
Because that's the
absolutely play
most
dirty.
effective way to do it.
You play dirty in basically everything.
Something I think about a lot when Phantom steps on my neck
Yeah.
is how vulnerable a neck is.
You think about that.
But yeah, because sometimes when in the morning, Phantom will walk over to me and he'll step on my neck.
Right.
And it hurts so much. And I'm
Right.
like, wow, that's wild. This is where I
Right.
should attack someone.
That's what you think in the morning when you're cuddling with your dog, is I need to attack people in the neck?
No, I think, well, I'm glad I know this. This was helpful information. Thank you, Phantom.
Phantom was not trying to tell you anything. He just doesn't understand the difference between your neck and a pillow.
I know. Well, we have a very heteronormative episode for everyone today.
Ooh.
Well, a lot of people might just end the episode right here, but
Boo.
yeah, but please stick around because we're going to be talking about gender roles in our marriage,
Nice.
and also the challenges that come from being partnered with someone of the opposite sex. Because sometimes there's like a disconnect between us, I find.
Really?
Yes. Even that you don't have one is a
Yeah.
disconnect.
I guess.
But before we dive into all of that, it's time for everyone's favorite segment, Marriage Moment. Do da da dee da 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 TM.
This one was a miss for
You
me.
didn't like it.
Yeah, it
I
was.
could tell from your face.
Yeah, it was.
Was it too sort of like Star Wars?
I wish. Not to
It didn't feel like I took you
John
on a
Williams'
space
score.
odyssey.
Yeah. No. Yeah, I just decided like it didn't really know what it was.
Well-
It just kind of sounded like kind of a bland, vanilla, you know, ChatGPT. Give me.
Fine,
a
I'm gonna do a
marriage
different
TM.
one. I'm
no,
gonna
no,
do a
no,
different
you
one.
can't
I'm
change.
doing it, yeah.
You can't change it once you did it.
What? I make all the rules around this show.
No, I make some of the rules.
What rule have you made?
I made a. All right, so you make all of the rules.
So here's my second one. Okay, marriage moment. Da 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 da. TM.
This
Was
one
that the same?
No, it was totally different. This one kind of sounded like an old school advertisement. So I could feel like at least a theme, you know
Okay.
what I mean, from it?
Thank you.
Like that's, I think a sign of a good song is when I can see it.
When you can what?
I can kind of, it paints a picture in my head of like what the jingle is doing. The last one just sounded like nothing. This one sounded good.
You're a harsh critic. All right. I guess I'll share a marriage moment now. So, you were asked in a very formal manner a couple of years ago to be my father's partner on his fantasy baseball league.
Yeah.
A fantasy baseball league that he's been doing now for at least 40 years.
One of like maybe the first fantasy baseball leagues ever.
Ever like created.
Like, yeah.
Like they used to just like have to like call up the baseball teams and be like, hey, who's playing tonight?
And they'd be like, get off the phone.
They'd be like, oh, these fantasy assholes. And, you know, it was a great honor. My dad asked my permission to ask you.
Yeah.
And then you guys had a beautiful walk by the beach where he asked you to be his partner.
We were strolling along the beach.
In Florida.
And he asked me.
Yeah.
He popped the question.
And first year that you were his partner, you won.
Won the whole damn thing.
Which was only like his maybe third time winning in 40 years.
Yeah.
And it was very exciting. What a roller coaster. But the marriage moment is that you, for his birthday, I think, decided that you were going to have a official logo of your team made.
Yeah.
You were going to like, what's the word? Like recruit someone or
hire.
You hired someone to create a logo for Trading Wins, which is the name of his team.
Trade Wins.
Oops. Oh no, I'm going to be disowned. And then you also came up with what the logo would look like, and you came up with this very smart idea because it's called Trade Winds, that it would be like a wheel of a ship, but the spokes would be baseball bats.
Correct.
And you were very excited about that.
Absolutely.
And then you ended up having to work with two different artists because one person ghosted you.
Ghosted me.
There's a whole thing. You put so much time and effort into this. And then you got him a framed pendant. Is that the word?
Yeah.
Of the logo for him to hang up. And then my dad was so delighted by this that he said, we got to also make sweatshirts and hats.
Mm-hmm.
And we got to wear them to the draft.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you said to me, you said, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
I'm not wearing that. But guess what happened?
I wore it.
And so the marriage moment is the memory of you and my dad coming home from the draft after the year that you won, completely decked out in your custom Trade Winds gear.
Yeah.
Like with a huge trophy and just like being so jazzed.
And we did terribly that year.
Yeah. Because
Yeah.
this is your third year.
This is year number 3, yeah.
But you haven't really done much this year.
I've been a little busy, yeah. Next year I'll be back at it, but this year I've been a little busy.
But just knowing like how like the idea of wearing that was like so antithetical to who you are.
Yeah.
But then like immediately caved and was like super into it.
You got to commit. I mean, look, I struggle on this show with some of the cutesy stuff.
What's cutesy?
Or of Woof.
Oh, that's beautiful.
No, it's super cutesy. And I was like, it's you know, it feels uncomfortable to me.
Yeah.
And so, but you know, you just got to commit.
Well, when you don't get to make any rules.
Right, exactly. I'm a prisoner to your rules. Sorry, Phantom, I stepped on him. But yeah, so. Yeah.
But that was I was there in person that night, right?
Yeah, I think
This
so.
is where I'm having like memory failure, where I know I have a photo of it, but I think I was in New York that time.
I think you were in New York, yeah.
Yeah. And you guys came back and my mom and I were waiting for you and
Right.
you were in your little outfits. And that was just a really special moment because you were willing to, you know, fully commit to being a Raskin.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Or my dad's version of a Raskin.
Yeah. I mean, your dad and I are both obsessed with baseball. And
Yeah.
So, you know,
What's yours?
good fit. My marriage moment is that it's about how you accuse me of things.
What?
And one day, we decide we have to upgrade our front door.
Oh,
Because the front door,
was hanging off the hinges.
hanging off the hinges, really needed to go. And we were holding on to it for
Way too long.
way too long.
Because it was a Dutch door, which was really intriguing. Because when people would come to the door, I could just open the top part and the dogs couldn't get out.
And the dogs can get out. It was actually useful in that
Yeah.
way. And it was, you know, cute looking and whatever. But it was just too much. It was like didn't really fit on the door frame. to like lock the door was impossible. It was
letting
bad.
in too much air,
Yeah,
letting
letting in
out
all-
too much air.
Exactly. So it was a disaster. So he decided to get a new door. You tell me, because you're busy writing, you just handle the door. I don't want to be involved in the door at all. I said, do you have any preferences? You're like, no, I just want you to make every decision and I don't want to think about it. I said, okay. So I did the door. You know, the old door was a black door. So I figured, okay, we'll just do the same thing. You know, why not? It goes with the house. Picked out a new door. And then the day before the door is going to get installed.
Not the day. It was the day before.
Yeah, I think it was the day before. We're walking along our neighborhood with the dogs.
Yeah.
And you go, I don't want a stupid black door. You always make me get a black door. And I just want a color. It's my lifelong dream to have a colorful front door. And you won't let me do it. And I'm sad about it. And you yelled that at me. And you have
to understand though, a lot of times when you're talking about me yelling at you, like it's like jokey.
Yes,
like
but
you're not like actually afraid that I'm mad at you.
No.
Okay, because if someone wasn't there for the context, I sound like a monster.
But you are yelling at me.
But in a comedic way.
Yes, but you
it's
do.
Like it's like
you
a
do
goof.
mean it though.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
But like the tone of the conversation is a lighthearted rather than like we're actually fighting.
Yes. And so you say, this has been my lifelong dream to have a colorful door and you won't let me have it. And I said, you can have a colorful door. I don't care. What do you want? She's like, I want a blue door. She said, I want a purple door. I said, well, we shouldn't really do that. She said, you see? And I was like, choose another color. You're like, I want a blue door. And I said, okay, let's do it. I don't care.
Well, so I was under a misunderstanding because previously I had stated my love of colored doors and that I wanted a purple door, and you had said absolutely not. And so I took that to mean that I wasn't allowed to have any kind of fanciful door, which was getting in the way of my lifelong dream.
Right.
I grew up in a house with a red door, always loved that, always really wanted a colorful door.
Right.
And I guess I overgeneralized your aversion to a purple door to mean that I couldn't have any kind of colored door.
No, of course not.
But then that got cleared up, and I was allowed to have a blue door.
But just the pent up, like, you won't let me do this. You're standing in the way of my lifelong dream. I never said that. And then you just said, oh, I want this blue door. I said, okay, now we have a blue door. It was like the easiest thing in the world.
And then we started doing a bit where I was trying to prove to you how many different colored doors there are and that it's not that weird.
Oh, yeah.
And so
yeah, we got into
we
a
would
competition.
Like walk down the street. I'd be like, blue door, nice.
And
Green
then,
door, nice.
And then if there was just a standard door, I'd go, black door, nice. Brown door, nice.
And we still do that.
Yeah, every time we see a door walking through the neighborhood, we just go, oh, brown door, nice.
Blue door, nice.
Oh, black door, nice.
Red door, nice. Yeah, so that was exciting. And then we got a blue door, and it's a dream come true. It's truly a dream come true.
So now your life dream is over?
One of them. Check that off.
Oh, you
Check
have
that off the
multiple
list.
lifelong dreams.
Yeah, you only have one.
One.
What is yours?
To be king.
Of what?
Everything. Of all of it.
Okay, well, our listener submitted marriage moment this week is on theme with the one I shared because it has been submitted by my father.
Really?
Yes. I texted him and I said, Dad, you got a marriage moment for me about Mom? And he said, I have to think of one. And then 1 second later said, I got one.
Amazing. Decisive as always.
So my dad shared, my late wife and I were taking a long-awaited trip to Europe, and we even decided to fly first class. We were in our seats for about 5 minutes, waiting to take off, and were offered a drink by the flight attendant. I got orange juice, and my wife got water. I put the orange juice down on a ledge between our two seats, and within seconds thereafter, knocked the glass over and spilled the orange juice all over my wife's pants.
Mm-hmm.
Needless to say, she wasn't happy about having to spend the next 8 hours with pants full of orange juice. But after initial negative reaction, she didn't complain about it again the entire plane ride. This made me love her even more than I already did.
Aw. Right, because some people...
They wouldn't let that go.
No.
That's all they would talk about. I would probably talk about the whole plane ride.
I wouldn't hear the end of it for years. Remember that plane ride where I was just covered in orange juice? Just orange juice sticking to my thighs. You remember that? Yeah, so that's great. Ruth was
a real trooper.
Yeah.
She also had like a real aversion to seeming like a complainer.
Yeah.
She was like always terrified of like complaining and like seeming like she was a complainer, which is so funny because I'm the total opposite.
You love to complain.
I love to complain. I don't think there's anything inherently bad about it. I like, you got to let that out. So I would always like encourage her to complain to me.
Yeah. She would always say that she was the opposite of a Jewish mother.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
but that was also because she wouldn't like
nosy.
Yeah, she wasn't. Yeah, she wasn't like metal and stuff.
Yeah.
And she would like and she was always afraid to ask prying questions.
Yeah.
She was so funny. But yeah, so that's my parents' marriage moment. I wonder what my mom would have picked for my dad.
I don't know.
Perhaps well, my dad would do this very wonderful thing where he would we would like be shopping and my mom would like something and then my dad would disappear and come back with like a bag from a different store, but inside that bag was the thing my mom had liked.
That's such your dad, like doing a sweet thing inside of a magic trick.
Yeah. Well, if you want to submit your marriage moment, we would love to hear it and share it on air, and you can send that to startermarriagepodcast@gmail.com. That's startermarriagepodcast@gmail.com. Welcome back to Starter Marriage. It's time to pop the question. This is the part of the show where we deep dive into the episode's main topic, sometimes with a guest, but today, just us.
I just thought to myself, you say that marriage moment is everyone's favorite segment, and you say that stay or leave is everyone's favorite segment. Yeah. You never say that about the meat of our show. Pop the question, which is...
I don't think that's anyone's favorite.
Really?
No, people like short, condensed little nuggets of fun. And then they slog through the real stuff.
Okay. Well, welcome to the boring part of the show. Have a cup of coffee, settle in.
Fall asleep.
The next 35 minutes of pure hell await you.
What's your favorite part of the show?
This part where we talk about the things that matter, the real shit.
You don't mean that.
No, I really do.
Oh, wow. All right. So we're already getting started on our differences.
Yeah, absolutely.
This week we're going to talk gender roles.
All right.
And also just being married to a partner of the opposite gender.
Cool.
I find that being pregnant is a stage in our life where the roles are even more pronounced than in any other time, right? Because we are going through this thing, but going through it so very differently.
Yeah.
Like we are preparing to become parents, but like your body's staying the same.
Yeah. So you're saying like the gender roles are really exaggerated.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like this is like the biggest divide between the two of us in a life experience.
Yeah.
Is like the physical changes that happen when you're pregnant and then labor and then breastfeeding, and like you won't experience any of that.
There are different types of pressures. They're not the same or like to the same magnitude of yours, but I agree with you that there are more forces pulling you. Like, aren't you going to help your wife, your pregnant wife, with this? Like, aren't you going to open the door for your pregnant wife? Or like, it's been this funny experience because I have been recovering from my appendix surgery, so I can't lift anything over 10 pounds. And so we had a bunch of leftover money to like a ceramic store the other day. And so we decided like from our wedding that we just never spent. And so we went to go pick up a bunch of things. And then like they clearly go to hand the ceramics to me, but I'm not allowed to lift this stuff. So I'm just like, give it to her. Bend your knees, honey. It's just like knowing that everyone's probably looking at me being like, you're making your pregnant wife carry all this heavy stuff. Like, and so like, it's more subtle, but like the way I was like, even just like thinking this morning about what we were going to talk about with gender roles is the degree to which gender roles are really about, there are the biological parts, like your like womb is growing, you know, like your body is changing, but also so much of it is about people's expectations towards you.
Mm-hmm.
And like when you feel like you're not living up to your masculinity, say, it's about not living up to some expectation of you or so what some other person in my life will think of me because I'm supposed to do this because I'm a man. And I think those are really interesting to think about it in that way, both for the ways in which we confirm our gender roles, if that's the word, or if that's the right way of talking about it, and the ways that we sort of defy traditional gender roles.
I think that we're like a strange mix that leans perhaps more towards traditional
I was
going to
say the same thing. I actually think we're sneakily more traditional than it might appear on the surface.
Like something that's so funny is like when we go out to eat, like you pay the check.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like it's funny because it's like with money I've made.
Right.
But I'd like you to pay the check. It's just like this like old school thing where I'm like, yes, of course, give it to my husband.
You're right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. You want me, I mean, you would like me to do all those kind of little things like that. Yeah. And oh my God, my masculinity is like saying, well, that's just been that way for a couple years. I did have, I was making money. It wasn't always your money. Sometimes it was my money. But like, that's just like me wanting to, and again, your money versus my money should be our money. But like, again, I'm just like, I'm imagining people hearing that and judging me in some way. And I just want to be like, hey, no, actually, like I made good money for a number of years. Like, it's just been this little stretch. But like, yeah, 100%. Like, I remember there was one time we were out with another couple friend and she makes a lot of money and he does well for himself too, but she makes a lot of money. And him and I are sitting there with our two wives who make more money than us, and we're taking care of the check.
Yeah.
We're rolling up our sleeves and caring for the check. Yeah, definitely. And I think like, I was wondering, I was going to ask you about this because I think there's a dynamic in our marriage that is very much, I am like, I take care of you.
Yeah.
In this way. And I was thinking about it like, is that a traditional gender role or is it an inversion? Because like you can imagine like the guy comes home and knocks off his shoes and there's a beer waiting for him and the wife, like gives him a foot massage or whatever. Like you could imagine like, or the nurse like tending to the soldier. Like there's like an idea that women in these kind of traditional roles like take care of the men. But I feel like it's reversed in our case, but it doesn't feel in defiance of a gender role to me. And I don't know if, like, it feels like I'm protecting you or caring for you. Like, it feels affirming or something like that of my masculinity in a way, but I don't know if I can put quite a finger on why it does.
Well, I think it's like that you're providing for me.
Yeah.
And like, you're like making sure I've eaten and like, taking care of like when like something goes wrong in the home, like you take that on and like you drive us places and all this stuff. But I feel like I do care for you too. And like, I do all the laundry. Like you get to go into like a nice, fresh, clean bed because I did that.
Delightful.
Sometimes you'll get in the shower and there's a brand new loofah waiting for you.
That I love. You've totally loofah pilled me.
I keep the home clean. Like, I think that like maybe the acts of care that you give towards me are more like obvious because like we're interacting when they're happening. Whereas like I feel like a lot of like the acts of care I do are kind of like behind the scenes and just like keeping the home going in a way. Yeah. That like
the dog stuff comes on a regular schedule and is always stocked. And I don't have any idea how that works.
Right.
It's just when I have to get something for the dogs, it's in the cabinet.
Yeah.
And that's tremendous. But you're right. That's all done behind the scenes. I never even know about it.
Yeah.
It's like a hotel.
And so it is this funny thing of like, often like I'm able to say like, thank you for what you do.
Yeah.
But then like, you don't always see like the things.
The occasion for saying thank you to you.
Yeah.
All right. We'll have to find an occasion. But let me ask you this, because we've talked about this show previously, like how not making money right now or lately, not being in the position of like breadwinner, is a difficult thing for me to deal with from the point of view of me and masculinity.
Definitely.
And that doesn't, by the way, that I've never felt like threatened by you making money in your career. It's solely just that like I am not contributing in this way. Because I think the first year together I made more money, and then the other year you made more money, and then I just like fell off a cliff. But and that like makes me feel like I'm a bad husband, which we have determined is not true.
Yes.
But are there moments in our marriage where you feel like because you don't do this or that you're a bad wife, or that it is like a failing of femininity? And I think also at some point in this conversation we should challenge these ideas, but like,
oh yeah, definitely. I feel like a bad wife because I don't cook.
Which is funny, just to jump in here, because I do all the cooking. I don't think about it as a masculine, feminine thing at all.
Really?
In the slightest. Like, I understand that it was like traditionally this female thing, but I think maybe like so many of like the top chefs in the world for different sexist reasons are men, and like I just like really love to cook and enjoy it, and like it's like this time for me of like privacy, and I can listen to a podcast, and maybe I can have a drink, and like I get to create something. I'm like kind of out of my head in certain ways. I can listen to music. I love it. And so I never feel like I'm the woman here or something. I always feel like it's time to cook and I want to cook. I would feel weird if you were cooking and I don't know what I would do. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, I think in my last relationship, he saw that as a negative about me, that I didn't cook, and like and so that sort of like ingrained in me this feeling of like inadequacy around my abilities as a partner and now wife. But the main part where I feel like a bad wife, and I think about this all the time, is that I'm not as physically affectionate as you.
Yeah.
And that I don't like to touch as much.
Yeah.
And I know that that's not what you want, and like that in your ideal partnership, your partner would be like touching you 95% of the day.
Maybe not 95%.
93.
Well, like, okay, so like I think last night or 2 nights ago, there's always a dog between us, which like always prevents our intimacy as well. And sometimes I wish they wouldn't. Like sometimes I'm like, Phantom has got some like Oedipus complex because he's like trying to keep you to himself. But there was like a moment where I could sit down next to you, like directly next to you onto the couch. And I did, and I put my arm just not even on you, just on the back of the sofa around you, and you flinched.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, like
it sucks. It's an overstimulation thing. Yeah. Like it's, I think a lot of people deal with like touch and overstimulation, and I'm just someone that's like that. Like I just like I have to be in a certain mood for physical touch to be a welcome component.
Yeah.
And I try to nurture those moods. Like if I am noticing that like I'm open to that, then I do really like, like sometimes I really do like cuddle you and hang on you and all the stuff. But I'm just like, I'm not in that place as often as I would like to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then it's this like tricky thing of like, well, what's more important, like honoring my body and what makes me comfortable, or like being a good wife?
Yeah. I think that one is, I mean, I feel like we could have a whole episode just on this topic, but because it's interesting. Like, I think you like when I like sit there and watch TV, like that is like a way that like to you that we bond. And to me, it like half the time we're on our phones while looking at TV and we're not even touching each other. And sometimes I feel just like I don't even like this show. like I want to do something else, but I'll stay because I'm like, well, this is like time for us to be spending together.
Well, I always ask if you want me to change the show.
Yeah, I know. But like, yeah, I know.
I guess to me, being physically close without touching is different than if you were across the house.
Yeah.
And to you, if we're not actually touching, it's like, who cares where I am?
You're like sugar.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where like you want to be close, but you don't want anyone to, like that's like where she is right now on the couch near me. Like
Yeah.
she didn't want to be me petting her, and then she moved over here. Obviously, you can't see this if you're just listening, but she wants to be near me.
Right. Like
But she doesn't want me
if
to
you're
pet
like at the table and I'm on the couch, I want you on the couch.
Right.
I just don't necessarily want to be touching on the couch.
And my version is like I would rather us be cuddled up watching a movie, or I'm doing something else. Like that is of interest to me. I mean, unless the show is really interesting, but we
do watch shows you like.
Yeah, we do. But I would say, yeah, like I don't know. We watch a lot of things that you're watching at the time, and then I can kind of go in and out of them.
Because I say, what do you want to watch? What do you want to watch? And you won't tell me.
And I say Shogun, and you say no.
You get one suggestion. I mean.
All right, well, I'll suggest some more, but we'll see. We'll see how many of them get vetoed. But okay, that's interesting. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, but so I definitely feel, I know that you would be happier with someone who is different in that regard.
In that narrow regard.
Yeah, but it is interesting,
Yeah.
right? It's like, I know that I'm not your first pick
In this one area. Yeah.
Yeah. But, I feel a lot of guilt around that.
Yeah.
But then it's also like, then if I'm forcing myself to do that and I'm so physically uncomfortable and overstimulated, then I will grow resentful.
Right.
So it's like this fine balance
What
to
do you
walk
do?
of like, how do I, not overcompensate to something that makes me then kind of end up alienating me from you, because I'm
Right.
like, oh, he's this force that makes me physically uncomfortable.
Right.
But like I said, what I try to do is really take advantage of the times when that is what I want.
Right.
And then I'd say like another big difference between us is like our experience around men. Like, I think because you are an emotionally intelligent, empathetic man, that you tend to give men as a population more of the benefit of the doubt than I do. If that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of opinions on this.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's right for this, but I think there has been too much of this, like, men, attitude. And when we look at outcomes for, like, young boys and men, it's, like, quite alarming, like, the state that they are in. And I understand that people have had a lot of bad experiences with men, and that's understandable. But I think we need to shift the conversation from men are the problem to men have problems.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I'm stealing that a little bit from Richard Reeves of the Brookings Institute, but like, I'm wholesale stealing that from Richard Reeves of the Brookings Institute. But like, we don't talk about problems for anyone else in the way of, in progressive, like, left-wing academic circles of like, oh, well, this insert group problem is because like men have historically been the oppressor, quote unquote, right? But if we're serious about creating like a more equitable society for both men and women, the people who are often victims of male behavior, we need to think about the system that produces that. And I think that when people like go around talking about like men in that way, in these like overgeneralized ways, it creates like a bitterness among young men where they don't feel accepted and understood by us. And so it is totally natural then to turn to the right wing people who are mostly talking about sports or MMA, but then also it's like, also it's cool that you're just who you are. And
I do think there's also some insidious stuff there going on too around what it means to be a man in the right wing community.
Oh yeah, well,
like it's not just like sports.
No,
it's
no,
also like
no, but that's how often it starts,
Right.
And I totally agree. But like, what we need to do, I think, as like people of the left, is to embrace, like, see, like it's okay. You're it shouldn't even be a thing that it's not okay to be a man, or like that. For a while it was like all men are bad. I mean, that was like a thing that was like trending on social media, and I just like don't think it's a mystery that like we've lost men, like young men on the political left, when where we were growing up, like young men on the political left was like totally normal and everyone watched Jon Stewart and like, like there was like a different way of thinking about yourself. And now it seems like it's changing. And I think we need to create a place where everyone is welcomed and understanding and empathetic, and like that's our strength, instead of like pitting each other against each other.
No, I totally agree. I just think there's also just a difference of what it is like to walk through the world as a woman than a man, and like the amount of times I feel physically threatened that you don't have.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that makes I'm not denying that at all. I'm just saying like, and I'm trying to bring this back to gender roles, because now we're just kind of having a different conversation about like men and women in the world. But like, I think that is something that men need to take seriously and listen about, and understand that like my body going through the world and your body going through the world is different, and have that conversation. And like, maybe it's so dangerous when you talk about like men getting a bad rap, because you don't want to like I don't want to sound like some like men's rights like weirdo. But like, for a number of years there, I would be in office places where people would just say things like all men are terrible and men are toxic. And I was literally in one professional scenario where the person said that they would not consider any men for the role, a role that I wanted, and they said it in front of me.
But I think it's also about preventative care, right? Because to say that like that to act as though men haven't caused more harm, that they're not historically more violent and have been oppressors, is kind of a denial of reality. It's more just like, what do we do to fix that? Like what, like you're saying, like what resources do we provide men with? How do we help men so that that's not the inevitability anymore? But that's like different than being like, we're all like, to then like denying the facts that, in a lot of these cases, like men have caused historically a lot of harm.
I'm not denying anything.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's totally true. But I mean, how do you reckon with that? Do you reckon with that by like calling out some kid who's like sitting behind a computer, like, who's 15 years old, and saying like, like lecturing him about this, and then he's gonna be like, who do I believe in politically? The people who are like lecturing me about how like I'm an oppressor and I'm just like 15, or the people who are just like telling jokes and like seem like they're totally accepting of me? And like, I just think we are never going to reach people while we're scolding them, while we're lecturing them. If you can like bring someone in and make them feel welcome, and then also be like, oh, and by the way, like your position in the world as a man, like makes me feel threatened sometimes. And you also hear them, like, I think that's like a more productive way of like reaching young men.
But there's also a difference between public discourse and private conversation, right? So like if I share something with you, that's different than me publicly saying it. Like, so if I share like a feeling of discomfort around men, or like I feel like that's not harming the greater good. I'm not saying it, to everybody, but if like that comes up for me, or I'm feeling that way, like I think sometimes like there's this sense of like that's not good public messaging, but it's not public messaging. It's just something I'm saying to you. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
And then I also, this like brings into...
We talk a lot about politics.
Right.
And so sometimes those conversations gets
confused,
enmeshed.
Like which,
Yeah,
right? Where it's like, I'm just saying this as a person to my husband.
Yeah.
Not like what I would go write on Twitter.
Yeah.
Right. And then I think this also like brings up how to raise a son.
Right.
which is something that like is going to be interesting and difficult, right? Like because how do you teach someone that they can physically overpower people, right? And not ever do that. Like around consent and like
Mhm.
around like what is appropriate and these things that like how to view other people and like I sometimes think about like if you wanted to, you could just strangle me to death. Right? Like it's almost like living with a bear. Like at if
Mhm.
any point you wanted to physically harm or kill me, you could.
Mhm.
And like I couldn't do that to you.
Mhm.
And that's just like an inherent power dynamic that is, like luckily I trust you and like, as we said before, you're not one to get in a fight, but there is like this thing, right? And so it's like it's like with great power comes a great responsibility almost.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's like a totally valid fear. In terms of like parenting, I think a lot of it is about attachment and like I think so many of the violence that happens is like a product of people, often young men, not feeling accepted, not feeling a part of something, having been wounded in certain ways, have like expectations. Just to get back to gender roles, like expectations that a man is going to be violent or is going to dominate or is going to be the breadwinner. Like these are things where it's like, well, now I'm going to go rob a liquor store because I want to like provide or I want to be seen as someone who can provide. And these things kind of feed into each other. And so yeah, I mean it's difficult because I feel like the way I like to think about it is like as like a system that is like operating and that we're all sort of participating in various ways and as opposed to just like particular behaviors of discrete individuals. And it's like, how do
But that's
we
what's
figure that
scary
out?
is
Yeah.
like I can't control the system. Like
Yeah.
I can say things to our son about how I would like him to view the world and himself, and then who knows what they're saying at school, or who knows like
Yeah.
what random podcast he discovers that's
Yeah.
like spewing out the exact opposite type of values and belief systems. And so it's sort of like because there is such like kind of like toxic messaging out there, it's like how do you create a person where that doesn't get through to them?
My working hypothesis on this is like creating a place where my son feels totally safe to talk to me about anything,
Yeah.
even if it is like a problematic idea or like whatever. Like if he like listens to some podcast or something like that, and that will be not be met with like judgment, and like we'll just like talk about it, and I'll explain to him like why I disagree, because like parents like wield incredible power.
Mhm.
It's like tyrannical how much power that they wield. And just simply saying that you like disagree with your child on something like calmly, I think will have like a profound effect. Like I remember when I was a little boy, we were driving the car and I looked at my father and I said, "Dad, are we Republicans or Democrats?" And he said, "We're Republicans." I said, "Okay." And for the first, 20 something years of my life, that's how I viewed the world
Mm-hmm.
through the lens of my parents, who I naturally, biologically assume are good, say that this prism through which you interpret reality is correct. And it took quite a bit to break out of that and to see the world in a different way. And so I'm not so worried about it as long as the kid feels like he can talk and share things and I can talk and share things. And like from that, he like builds an emotional intelligence that will like prevent a lot of the more awful things. I mean, like we can't control, like maybe the kid like winds up being a sociopath. Like maybe like we can't control everything, but we can control like the environment in which conversations are had.
So to you, the way you would respond to that question is, Mom and I are Democrats, but you get to decide like how you associate.
Yeah, Mom and I are Democrats, and we came to that decision because of these various values.
Mm-hmm.
And you're free to think however you want in your life. But this is how Mom and I think.
Oh my God, having a Republican son.
No, I know. It would be awful.
Heart attack.
No, I get it. It would be awful. But I think, and is there a version where he dabbles in libertarianism at some point? I mean, maybe.
Right,
I
know.
Like they're kids. Like they're looking to explore different things. They're looking to be taboo. That I think is a huge, huge part that is missing, right? Or like that people don't get right now about the right is that part of it is taboo and transgressive, and like feels like being on the left feels like kind of like stodgy and like very like of the institutions, and like being on the right feels like transgressive and cool, I think, to a certain degree. And like
rebellious.
there might be a time where he does that, and if he does, I hope not. I actually think our kid's going to wind up being like some like left-wing activist. I'm thinking like his like regular liberal, normie liberal dad is just like a right winger.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna get like little Allison with some of me and like some of my like competitiveness in there, and like it'll be what you're worried about will be like the opposite. He'll be like an eco-terrorist. I think it's just always about like, okay, well, why do you think that? Or what do you find attractive about that?
And explaining why we think things rather than this is the way it is.
Absolutely.
Like, this is how we are. It's like, well, this is how we arrived here. I think that's really important.
And if he doesn't agree, I'll just say, why do you think that?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me.
My form of rebellion growing up was that my dad was a huge Yankees fan, so I went through a phase where I said I was a Red Sox fan.
Are you kidding me? You're just disclosing this to me now?
You didn't know I did that?
No. I wouldn't have married you if I knew that.
Yeah, that was me like being a rebel. Was I was like, I like the Red Sox.
I don't even know what I'm going to do. I'm already worried that the kid's growing up in LA.
I know they're.
How am I going to get him a Yankee Stadium? I know.
I think one of the reasons I'm having a hard time adjusting to having a son is the experience is different in so many ways, and like if I had a daughter, it's like, okay, and this is like what it's like to navigate the world as a woman. This is what it's like to
get
like
your
first period. This is like what it's like to date and to be perceived as a female, and like different things, and like girl social dynamics, and like what that's like, and like seeing my nieces and like navigating all of that, and like female friendships and stuff. And I just am like at such a loss. Like I don't really know like what boys' life is like from like age like 2 to like 20.
Yeah.
It's sort of just like
you're
a
like
mystery.
At sea. That makes so much sense to me, that you feel like you're not on as solid ground.
Yeah.
But I think you're going to know more than you think, because I think so much of raising a son, and what maybe I'm sort of looking forward to, is like raising an emotionally available, intelligent son, or trying to, and like trying to take maybe some of those lessons of raising a girl and teaching him that it's like okay to cry, that like anger is not the only acceptable emotion, that like he can hear people saying that, like maybe me saying that I'm sad about something.
Mm-hmm.
And like, that's not a scary thing that's to be like pushed away. Like in many ways, like it feels more exciting in that sense to raise a son, because I get to like, I get to do it over, like as opposed to like, the way so many other boys were raised.
Well, why don't you raise the kid, and I'll kind of check in now and then.
Yeah, I'll try. No, I'm going to need you, because
I'll do the laundry.
You'll do the laundry. The stinky, stinky laundry.
Okay, so now everyone's favorite segment of the show, other than their other favorite segment, stay or leave.
All right.
This is a game where I present you with a hypothetical scenario that could happen in the future, and you decide if you would stay or leave me, because marriage is a choice, not a trap.
Alrighty, let's get going.
I decide that it is very important for you to understand what it is like to be pregnant. So I ask you to wear a pregnancy belly 24/7 until I give birth. And then when my labor starts, I will hook you up to one of those labor mimicking machines the entire time so you can feel the pain I am feeling at the moment I am feeling it. And also, you have to wear adult diapers for at least 2 weeks postpartum. I say this will help us be more connected as parents. Would you stay or leave?
Man, I guess I'd stay.
Really?
Well, what? I'm going to leave my pregnant wife and my newborn son. Talk about gender roles and the wrath I would get about that. And then I'd be like, well, she wanted me to wear this thing 24/7. I had to feel the labor pains just like she felt. And it's only for a couple more months, right? So I guess I would do it.
Wow. See, I think
I would cheat a lot.
What?
Yeah, I would cheat behind your back quite a bit.
You would take the belly off?
Definitely.
I have surveillance.
Yeah, right.
I've created cameras inside the home. That's what you want. You want us to live in a surveillance state.
A panopticon.
Oh, God. I think the issue here is, like, why would I want you to experience unnecessary pain? That sort of, like, gets...
Yeah, no, it's totally messed up. No, don't get me wrong. I think less of you. And our marriage has definitely deteriorated in the time that I'm lugging around a fake pregnancy belt. Because also, people aren't going to be like, oh, you're pregnant. They're going to be like, you're wearing a weird thing.
Yeah.
Why are you wearing a pregnancy belt? Like, this is offensive.
I do think you should have to wear the diapers for 2 weeks.
Honestly, that's like the least worst part of it, though.
Yeah.
Because, like, no one sees that.
Right. But just
having
so you
to carry
know.
around the belly and feel the pain is the worst part.
So right now on Mike, you agreed to wear the diapers
No.
for 2 weeks.
Absolutely not. I'm not pleased with you.
Okay.
But I'm not going to, like, abandon my child. You know what I mean? And abandon...
That's implying that, like, we wouldn't just co-parent if we got divorced.
Oh, that's true. So I could divorce you but co-parent.
Right.
And the kid knows no different.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting. Maybe you've talked me into leaving.
Do you think about how different this is going to be for me than you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Are you like, whew, glad I don't have to do that?
No. I mean, I tried to make things more comfortable for you because of this and, like, try to take on extra things because you are doing so much extra. And I guess in some sense, I'm glad that you're the one who has to do it and I'm not.
Like, you don't have to go through labor. That's so nice. And you still get a kid.
But there is, though, something where I'll never have, which is that I think so many of these kids, like, it just seems to me that they always prefer the mom. Like, your relationship with your mom is always different than your relationship with your dad. I know, I'm sure there's, like, plenty of people who have a better relationship with their dad, but that probably came later. Like, especially when you're a baby, when you're a child, like, you are going to experience...
Yeah, but knowing my luck, John,
It'll be like
kid
sugar.
is going to prefer you. And I'll have put in all of this brunt
no
work.
way.
I'm going to have put in all this physical toll, and the kid's going to be a total daddy's boy.
There's no way. Because, like, you should see Allison with a baby. Friends, give Allison the baby, and she just knows how to get the kid to stop crying. It's unbelievable. Like, you're just, like, such a natural. And that isn't to say that, like, this is going to be on you. I'm going to try to do everything to, like, learn and so that everything is, like, feels equitable. But I am just saying that, like, you just, like, have a way with, like, babies and children, and you're, like, you just, like, kind of light up in this way. And I know you say it, like, exhausts you, but, like, you're really good at it. And there's just no way that this little guy who's been growing in your belly is going to come out and have you as his mother and not feel a just tremendous pull and bond to you. And that, he'll like feel that to me in time, and I'm okay with that. Like, and I've accepted that, so I'm not going to be, like, upset about it. But he is going to be totally otherworldly in love with you.
Wow. I hope so. And I hope that maybe he becomes an eco-terrorist because I think that they do important work.
Yeah. So he's going to be bombing ExxonMobil sites when he's 18.
Well, we did it.
did
Another wonderful episode of Starter Marriage.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it? I know you're a little worried that you shared some of your thoughts on the man problem of it all.
Yeah, well, it's scary because people are really dug in on this stuff, and I just think that I just want us to start winning elections, and I just think that we need to rethink how we talk.
And I also think it's helpful not just politically but socially, right? To,
Yeah, absolutely.
Not alienate men and not to, but it's this tricky balance. But
I know, because a million people are going to come at me and say, but for thousands of years and blah, 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 blah. And I agree with all that. But it's just but how do we treat human beings in this present moment?
And also, what do we do to combat what's it's been like?
Exactly.
How do we make it different?
How do we change that? And it's probably by persuading people that they are accepted and that they are safe in this community.
And that they're not inherently bad. And
they weren't born devils.
Mm-hmm.
It's just they're coming into a society that is so harsh towards everyone, frankly, but especially people who are marginalized. But anyway.
Well, if you want to watch us navigate this minefield of a topic,
yeah,
you can check out the video version at youtube.com/justbetweenus.
And if you can't get enough of the two of us, why don't you check out Save the Date, and you can read a sort of fictionalized version of us from Allison's book. Or I think Conversations About Modern Marriage, which is a wonderful book about marriage that Allison wrote.
And you're featured in that as well.
I'm featured in that as well. Absolutely.
And if you're like, I want my marriage to be featured in a public way, submit your own marriage moment to startermarriagepodcast@gmail.com. That's startermarriagepodcast@gmail.com.
And as we say in our home,
good night to me, the Alibaba.
Good night to you, the Alibaba.
Thank you.